now Sven Alkalaj, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Radek, thank you. I'll look into this very interesting topic, which is important to all of us, to countries in Western Balkans, in other areas, and in the light of events in Northern Africa and other Arab countries. I will look into this topics from a perspective of a country which came out of the dissolution of Yugoslavia. We didn't have similar problems as transformation took place in Central and Eastern Europe. But we went through very, very difficult times, through a bloody war which took 250,000 lives, a lot of destruction, total economic, social fiber of the country was disrupted, and we definitely had to start from a scratch. And we would like to share this experience. Maybe some of this experience can be used in Northern African countries more to avoid some mistakes that happen in Bosnia-Herzegovina that are making Bosnia-Herzegovina slowing down on the path to joining EU and NATO, which was rightfully says we have a goal. We have strategic goal joining EU and NATO, and I think this is a major driving force for our countries from emerging after fall of Berlin Wall. But it seems that Berlin Wall fell on Bosnia-Herzegovina and almost broke its back. But nevertheless, after the 3.5 years of tragic war, peace was achieved in Dayton, Ohio, after 3 weeks of very difficult negotiation. It came to a certain framework which had a number of annexes. Among those annexes were constitution and other important annexes which would determine the future development of Bosnia-Herzegovina. And I will touch upon a few of these very important issues which might be also tangible for the events in Northern Africa. First of all, the Dayton Peace Accords didn't mean and had in mind, first of all, to end the war. And that's the major achievement of Dayton Peace Accords. And as part of these annexes, we had Annex 4, which created the constitution of Bosnia-Herzegovina. But you can imagine how difficult it is when you have 3 warring sides negotiating constitution and the format of the country, which would be continuing after this peace negotiation. There was a lot of mistrust. There was a lot of creating all kinds of obstacles, as Radek says, veto powers and this kind of things, which at the end now are slowing path of Bosnia-Herzegovina towards EU and NATO. So I would like to point out on this few issues. Talking about the 3 warring sides, which negotiating the Dayton Peace Accords and brought this constitution to the broad light, it was very good at the very beginning until a certain period of time. So it's been 16 years after almost 16 years after war ended, and we were doing significant progress in number of reforms which were necessary for Bosnia-Herzegovina to move forward. But now we are at the very big crossroads that those obstacles, that veto power which had been used and abused in order to slow down and for promotion of some own political goals of certain parties, it's preventing us to move forward. One thing which was done immediately after the peace was signed was move towards reconstruction. We had a few donors conferences which would bring reconstruction all of the countries in a sense of rebuilding what was destroyed. Of course, elections are very important. As Philip mentioned, we had them immediately after the war every 2 years, and they were conducted under the international auspices, and later on we were able to conduct elections by ourselves, by our election committee, which was formed by electoral law. Of course, one of the major elements which should be taken into account in this discussing the problems that we have in Northern Africa, I believe, is right of return. Refugees, there have been a lot of refugees fleeing from the fighting scene, and they find themselves in different countries, different regions of the same country. So I think in every deal which has to be incorporated, right of return has to be very much embedded and taken care of. This was part of Annex 7 of Dayton Peace Accords. Implementation is not going at the pace that we would like to happen, but it's important it's there. And we are insisting that it moves along that path. What is the problem in Bosnia-Herzegovina? Sustainable return. How can you return people when you don't have a job, schools, and it's not enough to rebuild his house. Rebuilding the house doesn't mean that you can be able to live around and make your living down there. So the work and schooling and other social life is very, very important. Someone mentioned religious, what would be the role, I think Radek mentioned what would be the role of religious leaders. We in Bosnia-Herzegovina have 4 major religious being since 1,000 years. So it's important that we find a coexistence among these religious leaders, among religions among themselves. Bosnia-Herzegovina served as a real example as a coexistence of religions in the past. I think they were really coexisted, not side by side, together. They lived together, and I think that was the biggest value. But unfortunately, we didn't have the same opinion in the region, and this very fine fiber of coexistence of religions in Bosnia-Herzegovina was disrupted by war actions. So what we did immediately after the war, we created Interfaith Council, which was very important, that all religious leaders from all 4 major religions would sit together, discuss problems, how to rebuild this fiber, how to make coexistence of the religions together, and also to discuss any incidents that happened and appeals to the population to move on. And I see the time is running fast. What we had in Bosnia and might be also necessary in other countries for implementing sort of cooperation with the international community, not protectorate, not any kind of supervision, but cooperation in implementing all these reforms which had been internally agreed. Because what is important that the parties within agreed, and then in this internal agreement is something that could be implemented. Outside intervention doesn't help much, doesn't make the things done, but sometimes it is necessary when the political leaders have different agendas, working towards the dissolution of a country or some anti-constitutional changes. Among major achievements, I would mention the good work of judicial system, achievements in defense reform, when we had 3 armies, 3 ministries of defense to combine with 1 army, 1 Ministry of Defense with a single Minister of Defense, which is not military, which is a civilian. So I think these are some major achievements, and that we were able to have this have free and fair elections. And one thing I would like at the end to mention is regional cooperation. Regional cooperation plays a very important role within the countries in the Balkans, and we are putting our strategic goal, and I think regional cooperation achieved certain very important and good level of cooperation. I believe in Northern Africa and this regional cooperation should be implied that the countries working together, achieving important goals, which would be beneficial for each country in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I also hope very much that this specific design of sort of consociational solutions in Bosnia-Herzegovina can be a lesson for other multi-ethnic, heterogeneous societies. Some of them are to be found also in the countries of Middle East and North Africa. Now.